Hi, I'm Malaysia, and for my second 2-minute pitch, I'm going to be discussing Hoagland's piece on heterosexualism. The heterosexualism that she discusses is not simply referring to heterosexuality as a sexual orientation, but about the binary framework that we all have to exist and navigate in, regardless of our sexual orientation. So for my thesis, just agreeing with that, I'm saying that we all have to exist within this framework, regardless of our identities, because it is tied so heavily to our existing sex and gender binaries, which we currently all have to participate in. So first I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works and what it looks like, and then I'm going to show you some consequences. So first, heterosexuality is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as sexual attraction to people of the opposite sex. I think that's a very fair definition. Most people, if I asked them on the street or in this classroom, would agree with that definition of heterosexuality. And it simply can't exist if there are no opposites. This leads to my second point, where heterosexualism, and even just heterosexuality, can't exist without having a strict binary understanding of gender. And it's actually kind of a good thing that we're releasing these things if you're looking at the system and functioning, because there need to be consequences for attempting to step outside of this framework, because those consequences create the illusion of there being a benefit to staying within the system. This agrees with Hoagland's claim that for there to be a protector, there must also be a predator. Some of the consequences of not agreeing with the framework are giving up your right to protection, which Hoagland says on page 523. Some examples of that in everyday life commonly are sexual assault and violence. We see for marginalized communities like the queer community or trans people, there's corrective sex, thinking that if they pretty much rape you, then you'll turn straight or turn cis in some way. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but there's that. There's also conversion therapy, which Mike Pence supported in the state of Indiana. And then there's just plain murder. If you go step out of the lines too much of the framework that we're used to, then you could be murdered like Matthew Shepard. And this sucks. Like, we might be thinking, like, what's the motive? As Fry said in Oppression, who's benefiting from this? If someone's oppressed, there must be someone who's benefiting from it. And I say that that's true, and it's men. So there's male dominance and power that comes from this protection and predation that Hoagland mentions. In protecting women, men protect their own agency and their dominance over women. She says that in page 524. She also says that in both protection and predation, the same objectifying logic is used. So men are acting for a woman's own good, and in doing so, they're violating her integrity and undermining her agency, because how are they to know what's truly in a woman's best interest? In conclusion, I hate to end it on such a heavy note, but I guess the takeaway here is that escaping this framework is pretty much unfathomable at this point. Professor Torrey mentioned in class why separatist ideologies like the one that Hoagland suggests at the end of this piece aren't actually practical or revolutionary. Unfortunately, I don't have another solution to offer. I just think it's important to continue consciousness raising, which I hope I contributed to today by tying together the connection between Hoagland's definition of heterosexualism and our often unchallenged sex and gender binary.